And today we're going to talk about chapters 10 to 16 in Hoot by Hiaasen. It's truly an amazing book, and I hope that you enjoy just talking about and discussing this book. Hiaasen has made lots of other books, so I hope that you also read those, okay? But anyway, so let's just dive in to chapter 10, okay? And so Beatrice saved Roy from Dana, right? Yeah, in the previous chapter. And now, so I just wanted to read some sentences, okay? It's this. I missed my bus, Roy muttered. Big deal, I'm missing soccer practice, said Beatrice. What about Dana? He'll live. So when Beatrice said he'll live, like what did you think that Beatrice had done to Dana to make her say he'll live? And just he'll live. That doesn't mean that that means that Dana could still get hurt or injured, right? So what was your prediction on what Beatrice did to Dana? Okay, but anyway, we learned what she did, right? Do you think that Dana deserved this? Or do you think that even if Dana's a big bully, maybe Dana shouldn't deserve this much? Well, I think that Dana maybe does deserve this. Not just because of Roy, but he's bullied like lots of kids over the years, right? And just made lots of kids scared and terrified. So I think that he needs it. If you had been Dana and you were trussed to the flagpole and you were only in your underwear, then how would you feel? And then also, I wanted to also ask you, do you think that Beatrice, is sort of using their relationship, Roy's and her relationship, to get stuff from Roy? Or do you think that it's not like getting stuff, it's just wanting help? And of course, Roy always says yes. So what do you think about that? And also, anyway, I also wanted to ask you, Beatrice is really good at lying, right? But I wanted to ask you, do you think that this lie is an okay lie? Or do you think that they should have just told Mrs. Eberhard the truth here? And I have a question, do you think that the truth is always needed? Or do you think that sometimes a few lies are needed? And why or why not? Well, in my opinion, I think that yes, some lies are needed. Like for here, example, there's white lies. Like for example, one white lie would be let's say your brother was like, am I going to get a bicycle for Christmas? Okay, and then you wouldn't be like, yeah, you're gonna get that, because that was ruined. So you'll be like, no, you're getting something else, right? Just for the fun of it, like a surprise party, right? But, so those are some white lies. So, yeah, so if always the truth might not be so good, right? What about you find an example of the same thing, like how a lie can actually be good? Okay, and now I also wanted to ask you, do you think that you are very experienced in, fibbing and lying to grown-ups? Or are you the kind of person who grown-ups are like, you really think that you can fool me here? I mean, I know that you took a cookie from the cookie jar. So which one are you? A really experienced one or a really bad one? Okay, so So now I wanted to ask you, do you think that a normal school would have kids really experiment with cell decay here? And also, do you think that Mrs. Edberhart is not very, very, not smart, but not that very, not smart, I guess, but not very, how should I put this? But what I mean is, do you think that Mrs. Edberhart is one of the people who you can you can do anything with, manipulate her, because even though she isn't dumb, she can be, she can be lied to easily, because no school would really do that, right? So do you think that Mrs. Edberhart should have catched what Beatrice and Roy was doing? Or if you had been Mrs. Edberhart, you wouldn't, or are you like, hey, I could not figure it out, so I'm pretty sure that Mrs. Edberhart couldn't either. What do you think? Okay, now I want to ask you about Leon Lurchdeep. So, I'm just going to read a paragraph here, okay? So, here. Beatrice Leap lived with her father, a former professional basketball player with gimpy knees, a beer gut, and not much enthusiasm for study work. Leon Leap had been a high-scoring point guard for the Cleveland Cavaliers and later for the Miami Heat. But 12 years after retiring from the NBA, he still hadn't decided what to do with the rest of his life. So just from that paragraph, what's your basic, what are already three traits that you've already thought of for Leon Leap? Okay, and I also wanted to ask you about Lana, Beatrice's stepmother. Is she a very loving parent? No, right? And so I have a question. Would you rather live with Mr. Leap and Lana, or would you live with Mr. and Mrs. Edberhart? Which are the better kind of parents here? Mr. and Mrs. Edberhart are pretty much the better parents here, right? And do you think that Beatrice, and another question is, do you think that Lana really she doesn't really care for mullet fingers, right? And why do you think that there's some reasons that she doesn't care for mullet fingers? Do you think it's just that she hates kids? Why do you think that she doesn't like mullet fingers? Or, And finally, I wanted to ask you, why do you think that mullet fingers kept on wanting to run away? Do you think it's because his mother was so bad? Or do you think maybe he just didn't like to be in a suit and tie? Or maybe he just liked to be in the wild? What's your opinion here? Okay, and I also wanted to ask you, if you have been Roy and you heard all of this from Beatrice, would you see Beatrice sort of differently in a way, or would it still be the same? And would you feel sorry for Beatrice, or would you be like, okay, well, I think that you can just get it, so I'm not gonna worry about it. I know that you're gonna get it. What would you be? Would you be like, I feel sorry for you, or would you be like, you can face them? How would you be like? Okay, and now, what do you think of, just from the description of Mullet Finger's wound, right? How did you react to all of this? And really, from a scale to 1 to 10, how bad do you think that it would have hurt Mullet Fingers here? And also, I also wanted to ask you about this, Mullet Fingers, right? So we learned that maybe Mullet Fingers was the one who was doing everything, right? And so, why did you think that Mullet Fingers was doing all this before you learned about the burrowing owls? What did you really think about what Motherfingers was doing here, you know? And then, okay, and then also, I also wanted to ask you about those small owls, right? And I have a question. Do you think that a pancake house is more important, or do you think that burrowing owls, those lives, same as us, are more important? And you can think of it this way. Let's say that you lived on the place where Mother Paula was going to build our pancake house, okay? Well, Mother Paula is like this. So like the company is like, hey, really sorry, but I'm gonna have to just, like bulldoze your house over. How would you feel? You would feel terrible, right? And mad and angry and sad. So that's sort of what I mean, you know? Like, the owls we wouldn't like it, so why would the owls? Okay, and now, did you think that Roy was going to help after he saw the burrowing owls, or did you think that Roy was going to like tattletale here? Okay, chapter 11. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about what I wanted to ask you about was Officer Delinko, and he found this torn piece of fabric, right, of green cloth. Where do you think that green cloth came from? Hint, it was connected to Motherfinger's wound. Okay, now also now Beatrice, Lieb, and Motherfingers and Roy, they're getting Motherfingers to the hospital, right? Did you actually think that Motherfingers was going to survive, or did you think that Motherfingers maybe even might die here? And then suddenly, there was a police car, right? What do you think about Roy's reaction and what he did to like distract, sort of like the police car? Did you think that it was like an okay distraction, or like waving his arms around and just Okay, not waving his arms around. I just mean, being at the center of the road, Do you think that this was like a good idea or a bad idea? What would you have done if you had been Roy here? I think that maybe I would have, maybe waved my arms around, I would have just tried to pedal harder, and maybe we could like Roy and Beatrice, they could like split, and then like meet back at the hospital. Maybe that wouldn't work though. Yeah, I will have to think about it. Then again, Roy doesn't really have much of a choice, so I think that for right now, I would just really pedal hard. Okay. And then, now anyway, so Curly, right? Curly, he has to now, sleep over at the site. And so what I wanted to ask you about this was, do you think that Curly is going to stop Motherfingers here? Or do you think that Curly, because he's a little incompetent, do you think that Curly will fail at this or not? Okay, and now, do you think that he's a little too paranoid here? He shoots the commode, right? And also, if you had shot the commode, do you think that what do you think that this sort of symbolizes toward Curly? And do you think that, and from then on, how do you think that the rest of the overnight at the site days will be just from that? Okay, and now I also wanted to ask you, do you think that are you really interested in are you really interested in just like movie stars or like Miss America or whatever? Are you interested in them, or are you like, who cares about them? I don't really care about them at all. Excuse me. How are you like? Do you are you interested in movie stars, or are you the kind of people who never really taken any interest in them? Okay, and then suddenly we learn. Anyway, like they kept on talking, alright, and they were talking, and do you think that, did you actually think that Roy was going to get blamed about everything or not? And then finally at the end, Mrs. Eberhard was this, Roy's been hurt. And so of course, when we learned this, were you like, how did you feel about what Mrs. Eberhard said? Because wasn't Mullifingers the one who was hurt? Did you think that Roy was also hurt here? Or what did you think was happening here? Right? Confusing here. Okay, now chapter 12. We see that Roy was exhausted, but anyway, we learned that Roy just, like Mullifingers, instead of Mullifingers, they used Roy as the name, right? So everything got confusing and Roy wasn't actually hurt. If you had been Roy, how would you have felt about everything? Would you have been scared that your parents would make a fuss about everything and that they would be mad and also the police officer would come? Or would you be like, hey, well, you did a very good job, Roy, and patting yourself on the back? And would you be also excited because it was an adventure? Okay, and I also wanted to ask you just quickly, do you like adventures, or are you the kind of person who just likes to be at home and just rest, peace, and quiet? What kind of person are you? Okay, now, if you had been Dr. Gonzalez, do you think that you would have believed the story that Roy and Beatrice made up, or would you be like, out, guys, you are not telling the truth here? Okay, and so I also wanted to ask you about do you think that do you think that Beatrice should take care of his dad because to take care of her dad, like cooking on the meals and everything? Or do you think that what do you think about this? Do you think that her dad should just do it because it's her dad and their dad is the grown-up? Or do you think that Beatrice should do it for her? What do you think about that? Okay, but anyway, okay, now I wanted to ask you, what do you think that Mullifingers' real name is? And why do you think that Mullifingers is not, why do you think that Mullifingers is concealing this? Okay, and suddenly, now, if you heard the siren, right, what would you think about it? Would you be like, oh, it's just another ambulance that's come to the hospital? Or, it's not about me? Or would you be like, oh, it's about me, let's get out of here, ah! How would you be like? Okay, and then finally, he yelled at the end, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm right here. Okay, if you had been the mom and dad, right, Roy's Mr. and Mrs. Eberhard, how would you feel when you saw Roy there? Okay, and okay, so I want you to use another simile, but oh, I forgot one thing. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, all the way back to let's see. Wait. Oh yes, about okay, so in chapter 11, Officer Delingo kept on telling Mr. Eberhard, hey, speaking, did you like write that note to my sergeant or police, or to my captain about like how I saved your kid in all the nasty weather, And do you think that Officer Delingo is too pushy on this and he's a little too greedy? Or do you think that if you had been Officer Delingo, you'd have done the exact same thing here? Okay, and finally, I wanted to ask you, we see that Mullifingers has escaped. Do you think that Mullifingers is going to be okay because he didn't have full medical treatment? Or do you think that it's going to be okay since he didn't have the full medical treatment here? Or do you think that Mullet Fingers is a really strong guy and he can just survive anything? Okay, and do you think that this hospital is not a very good hospital because patients can just escape here, and that wouldn't be a very good hospital, would it? Okay, now we are getting all confused here, right? So at least to our Mr. and Mrs. Edward, right? And after all this confusion, how would you feel about everything here? And would you be how do you feel about this? All this confusion. Do you think that this confusion is your mind's going to explode, or do you think that it's a good twist and turn in the story here? Okay, and now, now I wanted to ask you, if you had been Roy's parents, how would you have reacted toward, Roy going to this hospital and using and saving this friend and using his name instead of his friend's name and everything? Would you be okay with that, or would you be you did that? You did that? Oh my God, I am so mad here. How would you be here? Okay, and now, if you had been Roy, would you have been a little scared on what his dad was going to do to him? Or would you be it's gonna be nothing, just a little talk. It's not gonna hurt me or anything. Okay, and now, I also wanted to ask you, do you think, did you actually think that Roy's father was going to stop Roy from helping Mullet Fingers? Or did you think that Roy's father was gonna be okay, fine, but you're not gonna but still, you're not gonna have any adventures like this? Okay. Now, I wanted to ask you, how do you think that the walk do you think that walking really calms somebody, or do you think that's just, in the medical books, but it's not real? How do you calm yourself? Because they walked, right? Mr. Eberhard and Roy, and they tried to talk about it, and it was okay, right? So do you think that walking is a very good thing, or do you think that even if it is a good thing, that's not how you calm down? How do you calm down? I take deep breaths, of course, but yeah, it's not helping right now. Because tomorrow, I got some big things coming up tomorrow. Okay, now I also wanted to ask you about Roy's mom, right? And Roy's mom was talking about everything here. And if you had been Roy, would you have been comfortable with all this, or would it be a little uncomfortable here? And then if you have been Roy's mother and you heard that Mullet Fingers' mom doesn't really want Mullet Fingers, how would you feel? Would you be oh, okay, but not really care about it? Or would you be what? How would you be here? Okay, now chapter 14. So, if you had been Roy, would you have liked to go skateboarding with Garrett, or would you not? Or are you the kind of person who hates this, or who hates skateboarding? Okay, now I also wanted to ask you about Roy, right? And Roy's visit to Beatrice's house. But anyway, it wasn't the best year, right? And Lana kicked him away. Do you think that Lana here? So we know that Lana's a bad person, right? But from now, since we've really actually met Lana, what are 3 traits that she has here? To me, they were all negative traits. Let me just tell you. And then, okay, so that's one, right? That's one. But next, you went to Dana Matherson's house, right? And so, we learned that Mr. Matherson, Mr. Matherson thought that maybe Roy was going to help 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 Dana's homework. And were you surprised about what Mr. Madison said, or were you like, I figured? I wasn't that surprised. How are you like? Okay, now I also wanted to talk about Dana coming here, right? And the Dana here. Why do you think that Roy coming here to Dana? Do you think that this is helping their relationship, or do you think it's just making their relationship like worse and worse and worse? Okay, finally, I wanted to ask you: do you think that someday that bulldozers will like just like plow down every forest in the world, or do you think that there are national parks here and that national parks will protect everything, and also there's like state parks, natural reserves, state beaches, and like many more places, right? And even at my street here, like one part of the street is like all wooded. No, not wooded. Oh yeah, a little wooded. And also like right down there, there's like a whole natural preserve, like all for animals. Okay, now, so another thing I wanted to ask you was about about the form letter. If you had received a form letter, would you be like, okay, so I guess that maybe they are right, or would you be like, this is a piece of junk? Okay, and so I wanted to ask you, do you think that education is like really important? Because like if you learn how to like make fire, and like if you know how to like really to add and subtract numbers and to just survive, do you think that education is important in your life, and why or why not? Okay, and so now we see that there was so now Mullifingers takes Roy to the Molly Bell. What did you think about the Molly Bell, and what are 3 words that you would use to describe the Molly Bell here? And also, would you like being here with this Molly Bell, or are you the kind of person who likes mountains more? I would love to be here. It just sounds so beautiful, and I really like nature. And and suddenly Beatrice, suddenly Mullifingers, they see Mullifingers grabs a mullet, right? Were you surprised that Mullifingers could catch a fish, or did you think that, hey, Mullifingers, he's an awesome guy. I'm pretty sure that he could do whatever he wanted, like including like, taping mouths shut, like sick mouths shut. Okay. Now, chapter 15, our second to last chapter. Okay, so, now there was this, there was the plan, right? There's a plan, a mission here. But anyway, so Roy goes to Dana, and then, what did you think about what Roy did, about Roy's plan? Did you think that it was an awesome plan, or did you think that it was like not the best plan because there are like a few flaws here? And like Dana sort of Roy lured Dana into like the construction site with cigarettes, right? If you had been Roy, and if your bully was not Dana, then how would you have lured him? And you can just choose a regular bully at your school. But if you don't have a regular bully, then think of like a make-up one, and what would he like? Maybe not cigarettes, because I'm only a 9-year-old, and elementary school children, how even if they're like really mean, they mostly don't smoke here. like middle school, high school, maybe they begin to smoke, but not like elementary school here. So I think that maybe I could lure him, like saying, hey, I heard that a guy like dropped his wallet here, and now the guy's like all over the place trying to find it. But I know this kid, and the kid actually went in there and he saw the wallet, but there were like a group of people there, okay? And so now since the group of people are gone, he wanted to go, but then he had to do something else. He had to go to piano practice, so now you have to be the one who gets the wallet. I heard that, yeah, but anyway, the wallet here, I'm pretty sure it has hundreds of dollars, and then we can split it in 3 halves. So that will still make a lot of money. I would do like this sort of something like that, okay? Maybe like I would say, hey, I heard that, well, I'm not very sure here, okay? But yeah, maybe that. Okay, now, so do you think that this plan is going to work or not? Okay, now we are going back to Curly. What did you think about the last house on Witch Boulevard 3? Did you think that was, just from the description, did you think that this was a very awesome movie or like a terrible movie? And then Curly saw Dana, right? And like there was a gun, but then this Dana like suddenly did this, right? And and defeated Curly a little. Do you think that Curly should begin to exercise again since he wasn't in the Marines? Did you think that he exercised? My guess is maybe not. And I think that maybe he should exercise here. And yeah. But anyway, did you think that Curly did a very good job of stopping Dana Matherson? But anyway, Officer Delinko, he caught Dana, right? And do you think that Officer Delinko is going to get some money? He's going to become an officer again, like a police officer without having to do any desk work? Or do you think that he's still going to have to do some, desk work here? Okay, now, so I also wanted to ask you, what do you think that the law is going to do to Dana? Okay, chapter 16. So now, Garrett here, right? Garrett was like, oh, dude, and like he was like, whoa. If you had been Roy's friend, would you be the same, or would you be a little nervous around Roy because Beatrice might do the same to him, or since Roy's a very good guy, you wouldn't be nervous at all, and you would be like, wow, or would you not be impressed at all? Okay, and now I also wanted to talk about, do you think that this Sunday, Roy's Sunday here, do you think that it's going to be an awesome Sunday and it's going to be an amazing Sunday? Or do you think that maybe Dana is going to strike back, maybe escape? Okay, do you think that Curly's being a little unfair to Officer Delinko because he entertained his wife and mother-in-law, but like jazzing up the details a little, Do you think that this was like a good thing, or do you think that it was just unfair? And now I also wanted to ask you about the driver's seats we're missing. Now, if you had been Curly, would you be like, did the kid do this before, or did the kid do it after? And how would you have felt if you had been Curly? And I want you to use a simile. Okay, I would do one. I felt like I was being dropped out of the sky. And then Curly saw his gun in the toilet. If you had been Curly, let's say that your day was very bad, right? Then how would it suddenly, that moment, how do you think that it would have been? How would you, like, what are 3 words to describe that moment that Curly had when he saw the gun, in the toilet? 3 words to describe it. Okay. But anyway, I wanted to ask you, just from the description of this airboat, would you like to have rode this airboat, or would it be too loud and too scary, maybe? And then suddenly, after Roy said goodnight, suddenly we find out that Beatrice was under the bed. If you had been Roy, how would you have reacted to Beatrice in the bed? Or like behind this bed? Would you be like, ah! Or would you be like, oh, that was so embarrassing, I was talking to my dad? Or would you be like, and then just fainted? Or would you be like, hey, Beatrice, hey! How would you have reacted to this? And also, do you think that Beatrice and Roy, right? Do you think that they're going to become best friends soon? Or do you think that they're already best friends? And then also, I also wanted to ask you about this sentence that Roy says, okay? It's this. Then I guess we've got to join him, right? And so it means that Roy really maybe wants to help the burrowing owls. So what do you think? How do you think that this is going to turn out here? And that's basically our prediction. What do you think is going to happen? And what about Dana? Do you think that Dana will, do you think that Dana will now be, like he's in Julie Hall maybe? And so do you think that he's going to escape or not? Okay guys, we finished these chapters. I hope that you really enjoyed these chapters. Just have a great rest of your day. Oh yeah, a few questions, okay? What is your favorite character? Always changes. Mine's still Roy. Your least favorite character? Dana, to me. What's your favorite part in this book? In the chapters that we talked about, and then in the whole book. I can't choose right now, okay? You guys can pause the video, but I can't remember because I'm getting filmed here. And then finally, how do you like the book so far? Always fun to monitor this, and then like in the end you can draw a chart and it'll be really fun to check it out. So guys, I hope that you had an amazing time with me. Keep reading because it's awesome, and yeah, it's just wonderful. And have a great, amazing rest of your day, okay? Or night, because I always want to be fair to night. I think that night's very sad because everybody says, have a great rest of your day. So, and now I'm just gonna call it, have a great rest of your day or night.